I'm James, I'm 34, and for the past 5 years, I've been the unofficial event planner for my extended family. It started small, coordinating birthdays, making group chats, setting up digital invites, but over time, it became expected of me. Not requested, not appreciated. Expected. The kicker? I never complained. I liked creating memories, especially since most of my family seemed content recycling the same tired gatherings, paper plates, store-bought cookies, folding chairs, and passive-aggressive conversation. This year, Easter was mine to plan, and I wanted it to be perfect. Not just pretty good or, well, at least the ham was warm. I mean magazine spread perfect. I rented a small garden venue just outside the city, where cherry blossoms were still hanging on in delicate clusters, and the weather forecast promised crisp air and sunshine. I booked a professional photographer who specialized in candid family events. There was a petting zoo corner with baby goats and chicks. I even brought in a local caterer known for their farm-to-table brunch menus. And yes, I rented a full-sized bounce house, not because any kid asked for it, but because I knew what it was like growing up in this family, with everything always just good enough. I wanted the kids to have joy that wasn't rationed. It took months of planning and nearly $6,000 out of my own pocket, none of which I asked anyone to help pay for. The only thing I did ask for was that everyone RSVP on time so I could coordinate with the caterer. Most people didn't. I had to text them one by one to confirm. When they showed up, not a single person thanked me, not really. Some said things like, "Oh wow, this is fancy," or "Did you win the lottery?" My Aunt Lydia said, "I hope this isn't your way of trying to distract from that whole job situation." Because yes, I recently switched careers, and apparently that meant I needed to be monitored. It didn't really hit me until the food was being laid out. The tables were set with ceramic plates and cloth napkins, not disposable stuff. The buffet was a spread of quiches, roasted vegetables, fruit salads carved into blooming flowers. I'd chosen the music playlist myself, upbeat classics, nothing too loud. The photographer floated quietly among us, catching smiles and messy toddler hands grabbing carrot cake. For a moment, it felt like everything had gone right. I sat down at the head of one table, finally ready to eat something and maybe, just maybe, soak in a bit of pride. That's when it happened. My Aunt Lydia, whose biggest contribution to any family event is usually a stale bag of store-brand chips, sat across from me with her arms crossed, not touching her food. She looked me square in the face, then scoffed like I'd just burped the national anthem. "You're just doing all this for attention, aren't you?" Her voice was sharp but casual, like she'd said something no one could possibly disagree with. Across the table, my cousin Claire snorted. "I mean, it is giving main character energy," she said, giggling behind her mimosa. Her phone was out, snapping selfies with the peacocks wandering in the background like we were at a royal tea party. My mom? She was sitting just a few seats away. She looked down at her plate and kept eating. She didn't even flinch. Now, I've swallowed a lot in this family. Growing up, I was the quiet kid who got called sensitive every time I cried, dramatic if I ever tried to explain how I felt. I was the one who got left off the Christmas ornament rotation because I was too old at 12. The one who gave speeches at birthdays and got told afterward I talked too much. So yeah, I was used to brushing things off. But in that moment, sitting in the sunshine, surrounded by decorations I'd hand-placed and food I'd paid for, watching the people I'd done all this for not only ignore my effort but mock it outright, I felt something tighten in my chest. Not sadness. Not even anger. Just clarity. I looked at my aunt, then at my cousin, then slowly at my mom. No one met my eyes. I stood up, calmly, quietly, walked a few steps away and pulled out my phone. I called the caterer. "Hey, it's James," I said. "Yeah, we're going to wrap things up early. Can you start packing everything up now? We'll cancel the dessert table and the drinks refill." "No, it's fine. Just send the final invoice tonight." As I turned around, I caught a glimpse of Claire lowering her phone. My aunt was frozen mid-bite. My mom had finally looked up. I didn't say a word to them. Not yet. I just walked over to the photographer and said, "Thanks again. I think we're going to end a little early. If you could wrap up in the next 15 minutes, that'd be great." The bounce house deflated slowly in the background, like a sigh. Plates clinked and silverware went quiet. Someone finally asked, "Wait, are we leaving?" I just smiled tightly and went to the side to help the staff start folding chairs. I didn't yell. I didn't slam a single thing. But the silence that spread after that call? It was louder than any speech I could have made. And just as the first wave of awkward shifting began, just as people started whispering and glancing at each other, Someone called out, "James, what's going on?" I turned slowly toward the voice. It was my cousin Mark, one of the few I actually liked growing up. He had that half-confused, half-guilty look, like someone who had just realized he might be sitting on the wrong side of a family divide. His daughter was still bouncing inside the half-deflated castle, giggling, unaware that the air was literally being pulled out of her day. His wife stood beside him, awkwardly clutching her purse like she'd walked into a conversation she wasn't invited to. "What's going on?" he repeated. I took a breath. I didn't want to blow up. That wasn't the point. This wasn't about theatrics. It was about clarity and boundaries. And finally making them see. "I'm done," I said plainly. A few heads turned. My voice wasn't raised, but somehow it cut through the warm air and landed with more weight than if I'd screamed. I paid for this brunch. I rented this space. I organized everything, every flower, every menu option, every seat chart, every activity for the kids. And I did it because I thought, for once, it might be nice to have a family gathering that didn't feel like an obligation. People were listening now. Forks were down. Phones were pocketed. Even the DJ had subtly lowered the volume. But instead, I get told it's for attention, that I'm being performative, that I'm, what, desperate for validation. I glanced at Aunt Lydia. She looked away, suddenly fascinated by her untouched asparagus. "Claire makes jokes. My own mother doesn't even flinch, and not one person here bothered to say thank you. Not once." Claire opened her mouth, probably to deliver some faux apology soaked in sarcasm, but I cut her off. "No, don't. Don't make it a joke. Don't shrug and say, you know how we are. Because I know how we are, and I'm saying I'm not doing it anymore. If you think this is about attention, fine. Maybe it is. Because for once, I wanted to feel like I mattered to this family beyond being the guy who foots the bill and gets laughed at behind his back." Silence again. The kind that crackles in your ears. The kind that makes even birds stop chirping. I turned to the caterer, who was already boxing up the mini quiches. "You guys are good to start clearing. Whatever leftovers are left, donate them to the shelter on Lincoln. I've already made arrangements." That part was true. I'd included a clause in the contract just in case we had too much food. I never expected to use it because I'd planned for leftovers to be part of the take-home favor bags. But now? Now it felt perfect. "What about the kids?" Claire finally said, standing and brushing off her designer dress like she'd suddenly remembered how to be a human being. I raised an eyebrow. "They're welcome to go home and enjoy your hospitality. I assume you brought something other than criticism." She scowled. "God, you're so dramatic. And you're so predictable," I replied calmly. "You could have said thank you. You could have said nothing. But you chose to tear someone down for trying to do something good. That's not on me anymore. That's on you." Aunt Lydia had the audacity to look offended. "Well, I never." "No, you always," I said, turning to her. "You always belittle. You always minimize. And you always hide behind that smirk like it's some kind of shield against accountability. But this isn't your potluck and paper plate world anymore. If you don't like how I do things, you're not invited next time." In fact, I scanned the group, my voice steady. There won't be a next time. Not like this. I'm done planning family events. I'm done being the doormat you all wipe your feet on while pretending it's affection. I'm not angry. I'm just done. Then I turned to my mom. She hadn't said a word through all of this. She just stared at her plate, fork resting between her fingers. "Do you have anything to say?" I asked. She looked up, finally. Her eyes met mine, but there was no emotion in them. Not sadness. Not regret. Just tiredness. "You always make things so dramatic, James," she said quietly. I swallowed hard. "No, Mom. I just stopped pretending." She didn't reply. A few minutes later, chairs were being folded, the bounce house was deflated and hauled away, and families were trickling out in awkward pairs, muttering half-hearted goodbyes like they'd just attended a failed business seminar. Only Mark stayed behind. He approached me while I helped the photographer load equipment into their car. "Hey, listen," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "I know that sucked. And I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that." I nodded, appreciating that at least someone had the decency to say it. "I should have said something earlier," he added. I didn't know it would get like that." "I did," I said simply. He sighed. "Well, if you ever throw something again, I'll show up early and stay late. Promise." I smiled, but it was sad. There's not going to be a next time. At least not for them. Mark looked like he wanted to say more, but instead he just offered a handshake, then pulled me into a quick, one-armed hug. You did good, man. It was beautiful. Thanks. By the time I got in my car, the venue was nearly cleared out. The sun was still out, the breeze still gentle. If someone had driven by, they wouldn't know that anything dramatic had happened here. But for me, it was the first time I'd said what I needed to say. And that kind of peace? It was better than any applause. I thought that would be the end of it. But what happened next proved just how far some people are willing to go, especially when their free ride gets canceled. It started the next morning. I woke up around 9, later than usual, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I had a checklist chasing me out of bed. No group chat to monitor, no vendors to confirm, no rental trucks to track down. Just peace. And coffee. But peace is a fragile thing when your family sees your boundaries as betrayal. My phone buzzed nonstop before I even reached the kitchen. 23 texts. 4 missed calls. 2 voicemails. The first message was from my mom. James. Call me. Now. Then Lydia. Really mature move yesterday. You made a scene and embarrassed all of us. Then Claire. You're actually insane. Who cancels a holiday mid-brunch? Grow up. Then my mom again. We need to talk about what you said. And what you did. People are upset. I didn't reply. Instead, I poured my coffee, opened my laptop, and scrolled through the photographer's early preview gallery. He'd already sent a few raw shots. Candid moments I had hoped to print and frame. Mark's daughter mid-laugh. The kids chasing bubbles. My table settings catching the sunlight. For a brief second, I felt a sting of loss. This could have been a memory we all cherished. But they ruined it. Not me. By noon, things had escalated. I got a notification from Facebook. You've been removed as the admin of family events and holidays. That was the private group I had created years ago, initially to coordinate birthdays and anniversaries. Over time, it had grown into the central hub for everything from potlucks to Secret Santa pairings. I ran it. I curated it. And just like that, they locked me out. Then came the kicker, a new post, visible even without admin access, written by my mother. Yesterday's brunch was meant to be a celebration. Unfortunately, James decided to turn it into a dramatic spectacle. We all know he's been going through a tough time with work, and maybe that stress got the better of him. Let's try to have some compassion and move forward. The rest of us will be hosting a do-over Easter lunch next Sunday. No drama. Just family. No mention of the money I spent. No apology for the disrespect. Just subtle character assassination disguised as concern. I stared at the screen in disbelief. A do-over? Like they could erase the whole thing, sweep it under the rug, and carry on without ever acknowledging what happened? That was the moment the sadness turned into something else, something colder. Sharper. They wanted to pretend I was unstable. That my boundaries were tantrums. That my reaction was overblown. And now they were planning a replacement event to rewrite the narrative, complete with potluck-style sign-ups and probably Aunt Lydia's stale potato salad. But here's the thing about letting people take advantage of you for too long. When you finally stop, they don't just get mad. They panic. They lash out. Because now they have to actually contribute. Now they have to organize. And for the first time in years, they didn't have me to fix everything when things inevitably fell apart. I could have let them flail. I could have walked away and left it at that. But I knew my family too well. And I wasn't about to let them rewrite history while throwing me under the bus. So I took a breath, opened my old hard drive, and I began pulling files, receipts, invoices, spreadsheets, group texts, email confirmations, everything I had saved from the last 5 years of playing host, planner, and unpaid event coordinator. Every brunch, every birthday, every holiday, every dollar. I wasn't doing this for revenge, not yet. I was doing it to build something. A timeline, a pattern, a story. And once I had it, that's when the real payback began. I spent the better part of that afternoon digging through 5 years of digital receipts and files. It was like flipping through a museum of all the times I'd bent over backwards while my family barely noticed, or worse, mocked me for it. There was the Thanksgiving in 2019 where I rented banquet tables and custom linens after my mom's folding chairs nearly collapsed the year before. The catering invoice for $1,200, the personalized name cards I'd stayed up making, and the group chat message from my mom that read, "Don't overdo it again this year, James." It's not the Met Gala. I'd laughed it off then, but seeing it now, it landed differently. Or Claire's baby shower. That one hit harder than I expected. I'd coordinated with her husband to surprise her, built a custom photo wall out of PVC pipe and silk flowers, and paid out of pocket for a dessert table shaped like a carousel. Claire cried when she saw it, told everyone I was the sweetest cousin ever. And then, 2 weeks later, she posted on Instagram that her mom had done everything. Never mentioned me once. I had screenshots. I had receipts. I had hundreds of examples. And I was tired of being quiet about them. So I made a website. It started as a joke in my head, some dramatic family fraud files kind of thing. But the more I thought about it, the more sense it made. If they wanted to control the narrative, I was going to publish my version, except mine had timestamps. The domain was simple, private, and unlisted. I wasn't trying to go viral. I wasn't trying to humiliate anyone publicly. This was personal. Page 1. 5 years of being taken for granted. I wrote a quiet, matter-of-fact intro. No melodrama. Just, this is a record of my contributions to family events since 2018. I created this because it seems there's confusion about who has done what. I won't be addressing this further in group chats or social media. The facts are below. Each section was organized by year. Underneath every event, I posted photos, some from our shared albums, some they'd forgotten I'd taken, and attached copies of every invoice. I blurred sensitive info, left out names of children, and made sure not to post anything embarrassing. This wasn't meant to be cruel, just undeniable. At the bottom, I added a final note. I will no longer be funding, organizing, or hosting any future events. Please direct your questions to whoever's planning the do-over Easter. Best of luck. Then I sent the link. Not in the group chat. Not on Facebook. I emailed it to each of them individually. No subject line. Just the link and a single sentence. Since everyone's rewriting history, here's my version, with footnotes. It took about 12 minutes for the first call to come in. Aunt Lydia. I let it ring. Then Claire. Then my mom. Then my mom again. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I watched the website analytics slowly tick up. 3 views. Then 5. Then 11. The average time spent on the page? 16 minutes. Then the emails started rolling in. From Mark, wow. I had no idea it was that much. That's insane. I'm really sorry, James. From my Uncle Greg. You never said anything. I figured you enjoyed doing it. From my mom. I think we should talk. Privately. I waited a day before responding. Then I sent a single message back to my mom. I'm not angry anymore. But I'm also not available. Hope Easter 2.0 goes well. That Sunday, they held their do-over. They tried to keep it quiet, but Mark sent me a photo. A backyard setup, folding tables, mismatched chairs, buffet trays with aluminum foil, and Aunt Lydia carrying a box of Costco cupcakes like she was delivering a wedding cake. No bounce house. No photographer. No themed playlist. Just the way it used to be. The way they were used to. Claire posted a blurry group photo with the caption, "Family is everything." But for the first time, I wasn't in it. I didn't have to smile through clenched teeth or pretend it didn't sting. I spent the afternoon at a botanical garden, eating overpriced gelato and watching strangers laugh together. Strangers who didn't expect anything from me, who didn't twist love into obligation. A week later, I got a card in the mail. Handwritten. From my mom. She wrote, "I didn't realize how much you did. I'm sorry I didn't say thank you when it mattered. I understand why you walked away. I hope one day we can find our way back." I didn't reply to my mom's card. Not right away. I reread it a few times. Let the words settle in my chest like warm tea. Unsure if they were comfort or just the echo of something too late. She had written, "I hope one day we can find our way back." And while a part of me wanted to believe that, a bigger part of me knew how many holidays, birthdays, and quiet Saturdays I'd spent trying to build that road alone, brick by brick, while they barely noticed it was even there. I wasn't angry anymore. That was the strange part. It's easy to assume that moments like this end with fireworks or slam doors or epic clapbacks. But the truth is, real endings, grown-up ones, they're quiet. They happen in the space where pain used to live, once you've cleared it out and replaced it with peace. And I was peaceful. I didn't need to prove anything anymore. I didn't need the applause or the recognition or even the apology, not really. What I needed, what I chose, was distance. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. You can't set yourself on fire to keep others warm, then act surprised when they never learn to build their own fire. That spring, I booked a trip, a solo getaway to Lisbon. I'd always wanted to go, but never felt like I had the time. There was always something to plan, someone to show up for, a list that never ended. This time, the list was mine. I wandered old neighborhoods with pastel buildings and hung laundry lines. I ate custard tarts on sunny balconies, listened to live fado music echo through cobblestone alleys, and struck up conversations with strangers who didn't ask what I could do for them, just who I was. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't shrink myself to fit a family mold that never quite included me. Back home, the family events and holidays group chat went quiet. No more overeager sign-up sheets, no vague comments about who's pulling their weight, no passive-aggressive emoji reactions. Just silence. And silence, I've learned, can be a gift. Mark and I kept in touch. He sent me pictures now and then, his daughter's school recital, his wife's homemade pasta disasters, even a selfie at a birthday party he organized himself. Used your checklist, he texted once. Total chaos. Loved it. That meant more than he knew. Months later, around Thanksgiving, my mom called again. I didn't answer, but she left a voicemail. Her voice was soft, hesitant. She didn't ask me to come. She didn't try to guilt me. She just said, "We miss you. I miss you. And I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. I hope you're happy." And I was. That year, I didn't spend Thanksgiving under fluorescent lights or reheating casseroles in someone else's kitchen. I stayed home, cooked what I liked, set one plate, played jazz, lit a candle that smelled like cinnamon and old bookstores. And I raised my glass, not to family, but to freedom. Because sometimes, walking away isn't a break. It's a beginning. And this was mine.